5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ahoy hoy and welcome to yet another LMC Cast with me, your host, ShadowFox. Tonight we're giving you something a little different as we prepare for our end of year recordings. Coming up next we'll have our finale for the LMC Cast and our top 5 games of the year, but until then we're offering you a little hour of relaxing music. An hour of what music exactly? Video game soundtracks. For the next hour, me and Earth will recommend you 4 games of which we think soundtracks are worth investigating and listening to. These games are somewhat a little bit off the usual beaten track, or at least some of them are. But we hope you enjoy, and we will see you all next week. My first recommendation for you all is the soundtrack for BPM Bullets Per Minute. Now, this game is a rhythm game in itself, so the music should be good, and it is. It's a game where you must shoot, move, and kill to the beat. Therefore, it has a very noticeable rhythm to it, very hard-hitting beat. And each track is, in fact, 2 tracks, basically. One for the general level progression, and the second half is a much more upbeat, up-tempo boss battle moment. I've listened to this soundtrack while walking around, in town, or even at the gym, because nothing really gets your blood pumping like some heavy rock metal music. It has many good tracks such as Machinations and Judgment, but the most important song of them all is the first one on that first level when you join the game, because as a roguelite you're going to hear it a lot. So let us all enter into Asgard. My second recommendation for you all tonight is that of a spin-off of the main Halo series, which can only really be expected to be ODST. This game took you away from the roided up Space Marine and put you in, not an average Joe, but a very competent Joe of the ODSTs, landing in New Mombasa just as an explosion hit it and knocked you off course. As such, as you are alone and rather vulnerable, the game's soundtrack hits that well by taking on a more jazzy noir saxophone lonely feel. And it all very much fits as with the Norse setting, as during the game you are exploring around the city, trying to piece together what has happened during your time unconscious. As such, the game music flitters between the smooth jazz and epic moments as battles happen, and even rays of hope as you slowly piece together everything that's happened. In terms of specific tracks, I have to say that Deference of Darkness and No Stone Unturned hit all the sweet spots of guiding you through the emotions of loneliness all the way up to the elation of piecing together your mystery. All the tracks feature sort of a lot of the old Halo-esque beats going through. You'll often hear sort of a Covenant-esque kind of lumpy, bumpy beats. I'm going to call them. I don't know what we would really call them. But yes, listen away.
So let's start off with a nice Sega soundtrack, eh? One of my favourite soundtracks, which is quite short admittedly, and for some reason split into 2 albums of like 7 tracks each, is one for a game that, well, you can't play anymore, not officially anyway, but is by, and I'm going to butcher the name, Tomoya Otani, who you may remember from a few of the recent games, Sonic Frontiers maybe, but actually, genuinely, some of my favourite tracks from his came from one of the mobile games he worked on. And as a saying, if you know that it's not available anymore, you probably have guessed that is Sonic Runners. Sonic Runners was a fairly acceptable little game, nothing too much to say about it, but the music in it was very much top notch. You had a couple of reoccurring tracks from the previous games, certainly the Wisp power-ups that were used in it. Most of all I remember is, of course, the classic drill. But there's a few other tracks that I think are worth noting out. The level tracks are all quite nice, long looping stuff. But for me, one of my favourites is genuinely the Invincibility theme called Going My Way. Oddly enough, this is on the second album, or second volume, I guess, of this album. Yeah, if you want to buy it on Amazon, it's separated into 2 volumes. But yeah, Going My Way is a fantastic little... It's what I like to hear in Invincibility theme. It's not them reusing the title theme quite as heavily. This one's just a nice little ditty. It's a good feel-good feeling. My other big standout track for this one, though, is Theory of Attack, which is the theme when you battle Eggman. This was just an absolute class act, and honestly, it's worth getting this album for that. That one's in the first volume, which I think has most of the level themes in it as well, but yeah, this is, I think, a very underappreciated soundtrack, and it's a shame that technically it's no longer in any of the games. I'd genuinely like to see remixes, or even just straight up these tracks used in another game, because I think they deserve them. So yeah, enjoy a listen to probably what is going to be the majority, or a big chunk of the soundtrack to Sonic Runners. Definitely going to play my favourites, and we'll pick out a few of the other really nice ones to go alongside it. Enjoy! So one of my favourite games, specifically for its soundtrack, is one of those ones where it's a combination of, you know, songs from throughout the series, but this one is one where it's had, at the time of recording, 4 albums of its remixed music already come out, and a 5th one on the way, despite the fact the game is no longer available outside of Japan, and that is Final Fantasy Record Keeper. And if you want to know how good these remixes were, in the music game Final Fantasy Theatrium Final Curtain Call, Record Keeper gets its own entire game to itself, because the remixes are that good. They cover, you know, everything from 1 to 15, mostly the main titles, a few Final Fantasy Tactics ones in there as well. But there are definitely some standouts for me, and for a lot of people. Again, this was so popular, Square Enix have produced 5 albums, or 4 albums and another one on the way. Volumes 2 and 4 are available on Amazon, and I have those digitally. So now I just need to source 1, 3, and 5 from somewhere. I believe they also had physical releases as well, though they're very hard to get hold of. For me, there's a lot of good things with these remixes. Usually they had remixes that were like Christmas renditions of various things, of like medleys of the different themes throughout the games. Those Halloween ones as well. Definitely some of the most standout ones are stuff like some really good remixes of Battle of the Big Bridge, the Gilgamesh theme, as most of you will know it. It had a few variations, one with lyrics, one without lyrics. But the other one they remixed a lot, and they definitely have some of my favourites, is A Contest of Aeons from Final Fantasy X. And they used this particular song for the Magicite dungeons, but they did a lot of different remixes, kind of getting more dramatic and more heavy with the harder bosses you fought in those dungeons. Personally, the first one is my favourite, but I quite like the third one as well. They're all very good. And yeah, there's so many more you could cover. There were some really good Final Fantasy battle theme remixes from across the series, definitely modernising some of the older ones, but even like, you know, Man with a Machine Gun is, I think, one of the more popular ones. A lot of people like them. I think that's from the first album. I don't have that one. And so much so that even some of these remixes get used in later games. Final Fantasy XIV has recently had some Final Fantasy IX stuff, and I swear they're using the remix from Final Fantasy Record Keeper, who had it first, I believe. So yeah, one of my favourite soundtracks, just because of what it was, and technically they're still doing remixes, so enjoy a selection of my favourites. One of the most interesting ones will be the Final Fantasy Type 0 remix, which is really upbeat, almost Spanish influence to it, which is very in contrast with the lyrics. If you understand Latin, good luck.